All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever noticed that the people who seem to obsess the most over money are often the ones who struggle with it the most? It's this weird, frustrating paradox, right? Well, today, we're going to unpack exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how some really ancient, time-tested ideas can completely flip that script and turn all that financial chaos into total clarity.
And that really brings us to the heart of the matter, this central paradox. The more desperately we chase after money, the more it just seems to slip through our fingers. It's like trying to catch a butterfly with a sledgehammer. You just end up with a mess. The wisdom we're digging into today suggests that wealth isn't something you hunt down, it's something you align with. It's a huge shift in perspective, moving from this frantic chasing to instead intentional alignment. And that one little shift can literally change everything.
So, if it's not just about earning more money, then what is the real problem here? Why do so many of us feel like we're just constantly treading water, always stressed about bills, about debt, about what the future holds? Well, the problem isn't necessarily a lack of money. It's our broken relationship with money. And that's the core issue we are going to tackle head-on in this explain.
Okay, this is where we get to the root of it all. The real battle isn't with your bank account, it's with your mindset. That feeling of financial chaos, that's just a symptom. The actual disease, the root cause, is what's often called a scarcity mindset. This deep, nagging belief that there's just never enough. And that belief hijacks our decision-making and keeps us stuck in a cycle of panic. Think of it like this. When you're in scarcity mode, the fear center of your brain, your amygdala, it just takes over. All rational thought goes right out the window. You end up making impulsive purchases to get a quick emotional fix. You shy away from smart risks because you're terrified of losing. And you hoard resources in a way that actually blocks the flow. So instead of money moving in and out, creating more opportunities, it just gets stuck and your financial growth stagnates.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly, the two totally opposite identities we can operate from. Over on the left, you've got the scarcity identity. It's all about protecting what you have, seeing obstacles everywhere. But on the right, the abundance identity is focused on solving problems and finding opportunities. Just take a look at these two columns, because here's the kicker. Your financial reality is almost always a direct reflection of which identity you're living in most of the time. Which side feels a little more familiar to you right now?
So if our identity is what's shaping our financial reality, that leads us to the first massive principle: identity before increase. See, you can't just wish for more money and expect it to show up. You have to do the internal work first. You've got to become the kind of person who can actually handle wealth before it can find you and, more importantly, stay with you.
This is such a powerful idea. Wealth isn't just handed out randomly. It flows to people who are ready to steward it, to grow it, and not be destroyed by it. I mean, just think about all those stories of lottery winners who end up completely broke just a few years later. They got the sudden increase, sure, but they never built the identity needed to manage and sustain it.
So how do you know if you might be unconsciously attached to a life of lack? Well, this slide gives us some powerful clues. Do you find yourself making emotional purchases to try and fix something that's wrong on the inside? Do you avoid big opportunities because you're afraid of the responsibility that comes with them? Or maybe you even kind of romanticize struggle, making it a part of who you are. Do you have a secret belief that maybe wealth is, dangerous or unspiritual? Or do you find yourself blaming your circumstances instead of owning your choices? Just seeing these patterns is the absolute first step to breaking free.
Okay, so once you start working on shifting your identity, the next piece of the puzzle comes into focus: your divine assignment. This is all about purpose. The idea here is that real, lasting provision doesn't just flow to your random desires. It flows to your unique mission in this life. It's about figuring out what you were truly put here to do.
Now, what does assignment even mean? It's that specific purpose you were designed for. When your work, your energy, your actions are all aligned with that core purpose, resources are just naturally drawn to you. It's almost like the universe is more interested in funding a clear mission than it is in funding just any old ambition.
And this explains so much, doesn't it? Have you ever felt like you're just constantly pushing a giant boulder uphill? That feeling of burnout, of struggle, of putting in all this effort for very little reward? That is often a major sign of misalignment. Now, when you're in your lane, doing what you're meant to do, it still takes hard work, of course, but there's a sense of flow to it, not force.
All right, so we've talked about identity, the who, and assignment, the what. That brings us to our third and final pillar, the architecture of abundance. This is the practical part. This is the how.
It's about building the actual systems that can contain and grow the resources you receive. Because let's be honest, potential without a container is just wasted.
So here's the deal. Abundance needs a structure to live in. First, you need boundaries, which means having clear categories for your money. Second, you need intention, knowing why you're spending or saving a single dollar. And third, you need alignment, making sure your financial choices are actually supporting your purpose. Without this kind of architecture, any extra money or opportunity that comes your way can just get lost in the chaos, leaking away before it ever has a chance to grow.
And there's this incredible ancient story about a widow and a jar of oil that just perfectly illustrates this whole idea of building a container for your blessing. It's a powerful metaphor for how this works in our own lives, and it involves a desperate woman, a wise prophet, and what seems like a ridiculously small amount of oil. So, the story kicks off with a major crisis. A widow is on the verge of losing her 2 sons to debt slavery. She has nothing left. She is at the absolute end of her rope. I mean, this is the ultimate picture of scarcity and financial chaos. She goes to the prophet for help, and his instruction is, well, it's fascinating. He doesn't give her cash. He tells her, go to all your neighbors and gather as many empty jars as you can possibly find. In other words, he's telling her to build the capacity, to create the structure before the provision even shows up. It's a profound lesson in preparation.
So she does what he says. She goes and gathers all these empty jars, brings them into her house, and starts pouring from her one tiny little pot of oil. And then the miracle happens. That one small jar of oil just keeps flowing and flowing, filling every single vessel she gathered. And the oil only stopped pouring when she ran out of empty jars to fill.
And this right here, this is the punchline of the whole story. Her miracle wasn't limited by the amount of oil God had. He was limited only by the number of vessels she had prepared. Her capacity determined the volume of her blessing. And that is the absolute essence of building a financial architecture in your own life.
Okay, so we've explored these huge, powerful ideas. Now, let's bring it all down to earth with a simple action plan. How do you actually start building this new identity, creating this financial architecture? Well, it doesn't start with some giant leap. It starts with planting small, consistent seeds. Here are 5 simple and incredibly powerful seeds you can plant this week. First, try the 24-hour pause on any non-essential purchase. Just give yourself a day to separate wants from needs. Second, try a 10% principle. Let a portion of your income flow through you, maybe to a cause you care about. Third, create 3 super simple money buckets: essentials, growth, and joy. Fourth, just track one expense category, like coffee or subscriptions, not to judge yourself, but just to build awareness. And finally, and this is a big one, try replacing the phrase "I can't afford it" with "that's not a priority for me right now." Each of these little actions starts to rewire your brain from scarcity to abundance.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's just look at the big picture. We've journeyed from understanding the problem, that scarcity mindset, to a clear 3-part solution: transforming your identity, aligning with your assignment, and building an architecture of abundance. This is your financial blueprint. This is the path from chaos to clarity.
And I really just want to leave you with this final thought. The design for a prosperous, meaningful life, it's already inside you. That's the blueprint. But blueprints don't build themselves. Your daily choices, your habits, your mindset, that is the construction. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what are you building today?